One of the most common questions I get, both offline, i.e. in real life, and online is why I am so politically apathetic, why I just don't really care about politics, because I make no secret of it. I really don't care a lot about politics, and I also admit I'm not tremendously knowledgeable about politics, depending on the country and the region and the area, but in general, I just don't really see a point in politics. And this surprises people, particularly people in my real life, but also people online that I sometimes converse with, because they can't understand, for example, how somebody my age, almost 50, doesn't vote. Why would you not vote? It's so important. And ultimately, there are a few key reasons why I think politics is essentially worthless. And it's true that if everybody thought and did as I did, then political institutions and politics as they exist as such would cease to exist. And who knows if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But let's start with the first reason. I don't think anything about politics or voting is going to fundamentally change my life for the positive. My two biggest issues in life are not particularly special in the sense that they're health and money, which again is arguably everybody's problem, more or less. Most people struggle with money and they struggle with health, depending on the context. Very few people have both. Some people do. And those two are actually, in fact, intertwined, because if you are very wealthy, you can, in some sense, afford better health through the food you buy, through the types of doctors you see, etc., etc. There's nothing I could do politically in terms of voting, because at the end of the day, as a peon, as a nobody, me voting is the only thing I can do. There's nothing I could do as a political nobody voting that would fundamentally change my financial status or greatly improve my health. These are things that I have to do on my own, as do we all. And those are the two primary concerns I have in life. And that generally applies to everybody I know. People I know that I am good friends with, their two main concerns, more or less, are money and health, which again isn't surprising because those issues are the two biggest issues for almost everybody. So me voting for a particular party, you could argue, well, certain parties have different perspectives on healthcare or the amount of tax you pay. That's true, but all those effects tend to be pretty minimal. They're not huge effects at the end of the day. It's not like your wealth is going to double because of a couple tax cuts, or some minor improvement in the healthcare service is, for example, going to help me with my insomnia issues, which is the primary issue I have. And then, of course, I think about friends and family. Would they be helped by me voting, or even would they themselves be helped by them voting? And generally, no. The issues that they face, the issues that they have, would not be improved by them voting for a particular party or getting overly involved in politics. Again, most problems in life boil down to money and health, although those are kind of broad categories, especially the health one, and they're not going to be helped by your political action or participation. So who cares? The other issue I have is that it seems absurdly transparent to me when I look at politics and how people get really involved in politics and feel empowered through politics, that politics is just a means of making little people feel that they're important and that they have a voice in the world. Now, that might be a very important social mechanism to keep the wheels greased, because you don't want all the plebs to be really irate and upset with things, because otherwise you're going to get pitchforks and torches, or whatever version you get in 2024 of that. But politics seems to be a way to keep the human psyche sated and the ego sated. It's not that voting doesn't matter at all, but it certainly doesn't matter that much. The thing that actually matters is people feel good about themselves. They feel empowered. They feel like agents in the world when they cast their ballot. When they're voting for a particular party or a particular candidate, they feel, perhaps for once in their life, like their voice matters. And I can certainly see the utility in that, the pragmatic utility. Just like there's a pragmatic utility in the belief of God or the belief in some higher power or religious structure, it doesn't necessarily make it true. I cannot trick myself, or I'll be a bit harsher, self-delude myself that I'm so important that my vote actually matters and that the things I think about actually matter to the greater world, and certainly not the political order. So a big function of politics is to keep the masses, the broad masses, satisfied with their lot in life and with how they are fundamentally, even if they're severely lacking in many qualities in many respects, because all of a sudden normal people have this power. They can cast a vote. They feel like they have an influence in the world. Never mind the fact that you often don't get what you vote for. You might vote for a particular party or candidate who's promising you stuff, but they never make good on the promises. That happens very, very frequently. Or you end up in weird situations. For example, when the UK left the EU via Brexit, everyone was overjoyed, but now, instead of getting European immigration from Europe, they're getting unprecedented numbers of third world immigration, more than they've ever had in the entire history of England, which arguably is probably a lot worse deal than what was happening with the EU. So there are all sorts of twists and turns, and you rarely actually get what you want. So like a lot of socially useful things, be it religion or spirituality or what have you, politics is one of those useful things that I don't think ultimately is true, in the sense that you do not matter. Your voice does not matter. Nobody cares what you think, and nobody really cares how you vote as an individual. Yes, it is true. If everyone thought like I did, there would be no political system. Maybe that would be better. Maybe it would be worse. I don't know. I can't judge a complete hypothetical, but it's yet another reason that I have no interest in participating in politics. I know I don't matter. I know my voice doesn't matter. And I know nobody gives a rat's buttocks what I think, politically or otherwise. So I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that casting a vote or participating in political discussions really matters. It's at best intellectual masturbation, and at worst, a complete waste of time. And the final reason I think politics is BS and a waste of time is the nature of politicians and those who participate in politics itself. Quite frankly, politics is about power. I'm talking here about the people who are interested in politics, the people who are pursuing politics actively, not necessarily voters, although of course voters are interested in power on some level. But all politics is about power. It's about gaining influence, leveraging that influence, and using it to achieve ends that you think are desirable, oftentimes at the cost of the desires of other people, in opposition to what they desire. We've seen this in recent years, and not so recent years, with the left, or the so-called far left. In the things that they do, they clearly only care about power and pushing their agenda forward. And that's incredibly evident. Now, lest you think I'm on the right somehow on this, no, I'm not. I think if we had some kind of right or far-right system, they would be pushing what they want onto us as well. And it's not like the right is inherently better than the left in a lot of respects, because personally, my take, another thing that annoys people, is I believe in equilibrium. I am ultimately the eternal centrist on most matters, because too much of anything is rarely good. So I don't think that this moment in time is particularly special necessarily. It's just that the moment the left is ascendant, the left is powerful, the left is influential. And so, of course, I have a lot of problems with what's going on there. That said, if there were some super crazy far-right thing going on, I'm not so sure I would love that either, and I would also have issues with that. But my interest in this, of course, stems also from the fact that I'm not really interested in controlling people. I'm not interested necessarily in wielding power. Now, that might be wrong, and of course I've been told I've been wrong on that all the time, but it's just not a desire I have. I don't want to control or influence other people. I want to be left alone, and I want my friends and family to be doing okay. And yes, you could argue, well, if you had political power, you could make sure that your friends and family are doing okay, and maybe that's true. But we go back to the original point I was making, that voting doesn't really matter that much, and it's not going to fundamentally change the basics of my friends' and family's life, in the sense that their lives are markedly going to improve because they vote for X, Y, or Z candidate. And people who get involved in politics, as I said, are self-serving, egotistical, and almost always just want to have power. They have designs on society as a whole. You can see this again with the far-left politics, but even with somebody like Sargun of Dakar. Now, Sargun of Dakar was originally a quote-unquote classical liberal, but over the years, if you check out his main channel, he's definitely shifted very, very right. Now, we know that Sargun of Dakar tried to get involved in politics. It didn't work out very well. But Sargun is also the type of guy who would gladly wield power over people. Not because he's inherently evil, I don't think that, but because Sargun is the type of guy who always thinks he knows better than other people. Always. One of the things I've always disliked about Sargun, for example, is his smugness, his unwillingness to admit fault or be incorrect about anything, which a lot of people have, but he's particularly egregious in this regard. And so he now at this stage, he's almost as old as I am, has a complete picture of the world. He understands everything. And if only he had the power to change things, he would, because he has the solution for every problem, and he certainly has a solution for all of society's problems. Now, these types of people have always existed, and when they've existed, it has rarely led to good results overall. We see the polar opposite with the far left and various individuals pushing their agenda. They think they know what's best for society, and they push their stuff onto the rest of us, and most of us don't like it. Do you really think it would be that much better if you got a far-right Sargun of Dakar pushing his agenda onto us? I don't necessarily think so. And you can also see the similarities. This isn't really horseshoe theory, but people who are deeply involved in politics, again, they're know-it-alls, they're smug, they think they know better than everybody else. These types of people are just disgusting to me. So there you go, the three main reasons: pointless, delusional, and vile. Of course, a lot of people will disagree with me on this, obviously. I don't even know if I'm right. I'm just telling you my perception, how I feel about the matter, and it's an answer to a question I've gotten so often over the years from both people online and outside of the interwebs, and I thought it'd be useful to answer here. Anyway, as always, thank you for tuning in. Many special thanks to my patrons on Patreon and my donors on PayPal. You guys are the best. Without you, the channel could not exist. As for everybody else, if you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. Never seems to for me, at least. Be much appreciated. If I'm still alive, I'll check you out then. May the gods watch over you. Bye-bye for now. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.